You're listening to Pixelated Audio, and today we're going to be taking a look back at the last 3 years of making this podcast. Welcome to our show, Pixelated Audio. I'm one of your hosts, James.
And I'm one of your hosts, Brian. And the song you just heard was Battle from Golden Axe, the first game for arcade. Basically, this show is...
Oh, man. Welcome to Pixelated Audio, bi-weekly video game music and retro gaming podcast. We're your hosts. I'm one of your hosts, Brian.
And I'm one of your hosts, James.
Oh my God, what were we thinking?
Yeah, well, clearly. I mean, there's definitely been a massive amount of improvement over these 3 years, but it's so funny to go back and listen to how we sounded when we were so nervous to just hit the record button.
Yeah. So today, we're doing things a little bit differently. We put out a show every 2 weeks. It's gotten to the point where this week, I just moved actually, and I'm just sitting in, we're sitting together in a room full of boxes, and
a room full of boxes that will soon be where we record every 2 weeks. So,
right.
But in those 3 years, I mean, we've never missed a first and a 15th. So we still didn't want to miss one, but we decided this would be a really great chance to take a look back at the last 3 years, since our last episode that came out was actually the 3-year anniversary of the show.
Yeah, because our first year anniversary, we did Double Dragon 2.
Yeah, we did every version of the game. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and then our second year anniversary, we had Matt Furness on, which was good. We still get a lot of messages about that episode.
Oh, it was just such a unique and fun episode, which I can't wait to do some more of those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So today, the whole point of the show is we had stuff planned, but it was just, we don't have really a place to record. You may notice that our recording quality is a little bit different. We're actually not using our normal setup, our mixer and stuff like that. We're using just my Zoom H4n. We have it sitting on a Hero Quest board game box.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on the floor, and we're just kind of listening to our first show we ever did.
Going back, just laughing and cringing and having a good time. And we thought this would be fun. We know that over the 3 years, a lot of people have popped in and, partway through the shows, like maybe in the 30s or 40s or 50s, and haven't gotten back to these early episodes. Or if you have listened to the early episodes, it might have been quite a while. So we just are having so much fun listening to how nervous and I think there's at one point I sound like I'm about to cry. So it's just so funny how much more comfortable we are now.
Yeah, and the show format the original format has kind of stayed the same, where we focus on one game or maybe just a few games in the series. Right. But the show itself has dramatically changed as far as what we do and what we feel our focuses and fortes are. Right,
by adding things like betting and things like that with after the tracks play. But the general idea of the show is still the same. We love VGM music, and we love looking into games and learning about games that are more obscure. We've kind of stuck with that instead of playing songs that you hear everywhere. We wanted to pick out some songs that you may never have heard of that are just as good as the mainstream stuff. So that hasn't really changed, which is surprising to take a look back and see that we're still sticking to our roots. We've just gotten better, and we've refined the show a little bit more.
Yeah, so today, again, we're not going to be playing anything new. You're going to listen to some parts of episode 1 with us, and we're going to kind of just talk about how this podcast it's kind of evolved.
Yeah, the ups and the downs, the ideas, and just the way that it's evolved over the years.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and continue with episode 1. God, I'm so nervous to listen to this.
Do you want to share your notes with that?
Right. The game was designed by Makoto Uchida, and it originally debuted on the System 16 arcade hardware.
It's the same as Shinobi and same stuff of that time, right?
Right. And some of the other games that Mikado worked on was things like Altered Beast, which was a big one, Alien Storm, Dynamite Cop, just to name a few.
When I was researching Uchida and the game development, it actually was, I actually read that he went up to the higher ups at Sega and kind of pitched this idea to do a Dragon Quest, like Dragon Quest RPG and stuff like that was really, kind of booming at that time in the industry and was, selling millions of copies and or tens of thousands of copies. I don't have an exact number in front of me,
right.
but he really loved that idea, and being a fan of like Conan and these kind of
those action
70s
movies
action medieval fantasy movies. He pitched this idea that he wanted to do a Dragon Quest like RPG, and I'm not sure if it was the one, like it ended up being something he wanted to do for the Game Gear or anything like that, but it probably got shot down.
Right, I can't see that being an idea for an arcade that would have worked very well.
They probably, and Sega was so rich in the coin-op market at the time that it was something that they probably didn't want to deviate too far from.
Right, and I think a lot of people don't realize how heavy Sega focused on arcades while others were focusing on consoles.
It's like they had like two separate divisions, one for their console, home console, where their cash cow was the arcades. But this was the 80s and 90s
when arcades
still,
were big.
Still really relevant, right? All over the world even. So let's see. Before we get into the first block of tracks, though, and what we're going to do each episode is we're gonna talk a little bit about the games, and we're also going to play some of the music. And this time we're going to kind of play a series of different tracks and let you know about the composers and stuff like that. And this game, Golden Axe 1, was credited by or composed by two people primarily. The first one was Toru Nakabayashi.
Oh man. Yeah, that's why we named this show Golden Axe, because even we knew at the time, we're like, holy crap, there's a lot of ums. But we were so nervous about getting started that if we went back and tried to re-record the show, just redo it, we never would have started. It would have just been,
oh yeah. I mean, that was actually something that I had pitched to you a while ago, is that we've been doing the show for so long, it'd be fun to redo Golden Axe 1, like remastered. And since like games and stuff like that do that, but we ended up just continuing to move on with new stuff. And I think we'd only ever done one like practice run of a different game, which I think turned out to be in our Xerinx episode. I think we did a little bit of research on Red Alarm, or Red Zone.
Red Zone.
Yeah, we did a little bit of research on Red Zone and sat down with some mics and played around with it to see how it went. We just decided to go with Golden Axe. So there was really no practicing or playing with stuff. We just kind of jumped right in, and man, that hitting record was the scariest thing ever.
Yeah. Both of us never had any mic experience.
Right.
We've never done anything like that. So it was nerve-wracking for both of us, to get in front of a mic and actually have to hear our own voice. Which, to this day, I still cringe when I hear myself talk. So.
Well, and we had no idea how difficult it was going to be. I mean, I think that first episode took like 8 hours to record or something like that.
Because we had to keep breaking it up and like figuring out how we're going to do it. And
well, just that and like just not fumbling words all the time was difficult. And that episode turned out the best that we could make at that time.
Oh, yeah. So, we've had a lot of questions kind of over the years, and I try to kind of gather some in, kind of floating through past emails and stuff, and I don't recall specific people that asked questions, but I did see kind of a trend. Some people asked kind of how the show is made, and so usually I guess we'll kind of go from start to finish. Usually when James and I come up with a episode theme, there's times where we have it's very deliberate and we know what we want to work on. We know what we want to kind of focus on next. Other times it's random.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a few days before we record the episode, we pick a game and jam on the research and throw it together and meet up and record the episode. So but yeah, I definitely hear a lot of people that are interested in starting their own podcast. All the equipment's out there. It's easy to get started and set up, and it doesn't cost anything to put your show out there. So there are a lot of people that are interested in the process of making a show.
Yeah, so after we, sit down, we got our research done. James and I use a mixer. It's a Behringer mixer. It's 4 mic input XLR. We use XLR microphones. We use ATR 2100s for our recording. Let's see here. What else? We use a H4n to actually take in the input. That way we don't have any, everything's solid state on the desk. We don't have a computer running with fans and stuff going. It makes it a little bit more easy to, start and stop whenever we want. And then post-production, I do all the editing, and it's all done in Audacity because it's free, it's open source, and I love it. And then after that, we put in, so the music actually goes in post, even though we listen to it as we're recording.
Right, we take a breaks when we play the music, we listen to it, we write our own notes on the fly. We don't really spend a lot of time writing notes ahead of time about the songs. We kind of like to see how we're feeling in the moment based on how the episode's going and the dialogue that Brian and I are having. So we like to keep that on the fly. So we do listen to everything in the spots where they appear in the show.
Right. And then afterwards we go in and inject the proper sound. And then, when we do like channel breakdowns and stuff like that, there are a few extra little things that we do. I have a specific version of like VGM in that I compiled myself. That's more like a soundboard for our specific needs, so I can turn channels off and on as we're going live. I also use a custom foobar plugin that I have compiled that does similar things. So it just makes it a little bit easier to do live than to go in and flip on channel. It's a little bit of a pain. Yeah,
because we listen to these tracks over and over before we record episodes, but sometimes on the day you notice something a little bit different, and it's just great to be able to say, hey, Brian, like, can we check out this track and turn these channels off and like listen to this sound that just popped up, and it's always really fun to make the show feel more alive and fluid and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, let's get into our next track from episode 1. I'm not sure what it is here. I think we played a track from the Genesis, Wilderness. All right, so let's check that out and we'll listen to the disaster when we come back.
tracks you just heard were Wilderness for the Sega Genesis Mega Drive and Turtle Village 2 Round 4 for the arcade, both from Golden Axe 1.
Right.
You want to talk a little bit about the game tracks that we just heard?
Sure. As you may have noticed, the Wilderness track actually is it's kind of an upbeat song for a barbarian sword slaying type game.
Yeah.
And I feel like since it shows up so early in the game, it's kind of like you're excited to go on this adventure to avenge your family.
It definitely sets the tone for the entire game. It kind of keeps you. I mean, and a lot, for coin op too, a lot of people would pop in a quarter and start playing and maybe never get to the next round.
Right.
So that first track was
really
very
good.
important to kind of pique their interest and keep going, with it and want to keep playing. It was a good track.
It's kind of an optimistic feel to it. You're kind of starting out and you're ready to go. Whereas in Turtle Village 2 Round 4, I feel like it starts to get a little bit more somber. Kind of like maybe this adventure is not going to be as easy as you thought it was going to be, and
this is already you're in the second level of the game.
Yeah, so for a lot of people, this may be about as far as they're going to get.
Yeah,
they run out of quarters by this point.
But it has that kind of those kind of synth sounds like in the back, the don don don, and
right.
I think that's really rad. Like I could kind of listen to that quietly all day long. That's pretty rad.
The Turtle Village 2 track, Round 4, is one of my favorite tracks from this album.
Yeah, definitely.
It has this real big progression of kind of a build-up, and I really like that.
So kind of getting back into Golden Axe 1, the game, the story takes place in this land called Uria. It's this high fantasy medieval world.
Yeah, it's a very Conan-like... very
it's basically
dangerous.
Conan unlicensed version, and
right.
they didn't have to pay royalties on. Anyways, so the main antagonist is Death Adder, and he captures is it the king and queen?
The king and his daughter.
Oh, king and his daughter. Okay, yeah,
and just a hostile takeover comes in, kidnaps him, and forces the country to follow him, or he's going to execute the king and his daughter. So
okay, so where's the golden axe fall into place there, James?
The golden axe is actually
it's kind of like
it's like a relic of, it's like something special that this kingdom has. I guess it's a very special weapon and gives you powers, or amplifies your power or something like that. And he takes it over. So you don't play with a golden axe. So your characters don't have a golden axe, but the villain, he has it. He's taking it over.
Yeah, and if you look at the title screen, actually...
Yeah, once we start
it's pretty
talking, without thinking,
Kanji,
right,
it gets a little more natural. But
well, I think we've spent so many years just, loving video game music and hanging out, talking about what we liked about each song and stuff like that. I think that was the easiest part of the episodes, whereas the research and basically giving, a book report on a game was the hard part.
Well, we get a lot more... I guess we get a lot more research in. We know how to research a lot better,
right.
I think, too. Before it was we would try to compile a million different sources, where now we're a lot better at cross-referencing and making sure our facts are straight.
Right.
And also finding a lot better info, talking directly to people involved and composers has been a lot more useful than some, just trying to dig up some random stuff.
And I think the way that we write our notes now is a little bit more natural for us. Before we were very concerned with, we didn't know what to say. So we were very detailed in our notes, and now it's much less detailed. And I think it allows us to show our personalities, and it feels a little bit more natural to put those thoughts together than having them kind of more figured out for you. Yeah,
because before the bullet points that we would have would be almost like their own mini reports in themselves. And so we would get we would try to kind of remember what we were writing, and then it was just a mess.
It was difficult to make it sound natural. And I think one other thing that I noticed from listening to that clip is we don't play two tracks butted up together anymore. We'll separate them with talking about them.
We stopped that a long time ago too. It's been over a year.
I think it's been much longer than that, but it just was confusing to me. And when I've listened to our show and other shows, like sometimes it's not easy to tell where the track ends, and then you have another song that's kind of replaced what you were thinking about with the previous song. So now I like the way that we do it with, if we're going to play back-to-back tracks, we still break it up by talking about the track.
Yeah, and then just jump right back into the track. And, that hasn't changed into playing less music. If anything, we actually play more because of it. Because our show has always been a lot more music heavy. We do talk a lot about the games and stuff and our opinions about the tracks. But as far as the amount of music we play, it's always chock full of
just
music.
look at that Lunar episode. I think it had 20 tracks or something in it.
Yeah, I think it was about 48, 49 minutes, I can't remember exactly, of actual music for, a 2 hour, 45-minute episode. So, I mean, that's...
with an interview.
Yeah, with an interview. And that always adds a little bit of time. Kind of circling back over to the interview thing, I've had a lot of people ask me over the years, and I think ask you too, like, how do you guys get all these composers on to interview?
Yeah, because we're not like big in game circles. We just go out there and ask. And
really, what it comes down to is I'm just a smooth talker.
Yeah. Bryan is definitely born with a silver tongue. He definitely inherited that.
Well, no, like what it is to a lot of these people I'll email, and it won't really necessarily be about like an interview, to do. Like I won't say, hey, do you want to just be on the show? Isn't
right.
it? I usually kind of open up with something like, hey, we really like your music. I know this has probably been a long time since you even thought about this, but we just want to say we appreciate the stuff that you did, then, and we still appreciate it now. And usually if they respond to that, then I know that they're kind of open to maybe talking about it. And so I'll ask them a little bit about the game, a little bit about what they're doing now. Yeah. And so that's, how it's turned out with everybody so far.
Yeah, and it's not like some formula that we decided works best. It's just, it allows us to get, our love and appreciation for their work out of the way, and, get talking to someone that we have looked up to. So, and then if a lot of these people we find, no one really wants to talk to them about their music. A lot of times they say, no one has asked me about that game in 20 years.
Exactly.
And so it to them, it's exciting to take a look back at something that they haven't thought about. Like you said, I mean, when we talked to Chris Hulsbeck, he said nobody really asked him about Jim Power, but that's one of his favorite soundtracks that he's ever done. So to us, that was exciting to see that there are plenty of games that these amazing composers have done that they're excited to talk about.
Yeah, Iwadare was really into being on the show. Like he was more into it than I expected. He was just like, I can't wait, and so he was really excited. He asked me to translate the whole episode into Japanese so that he could listen, and I realized, no, that's way too much work. Sorry, dude, you're gonna have to like buck up and learn a little bit of English or something for that. But yeah, talking to these composers and stuff, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very educational. We don't actively go out and try to find composers to interview.
Right.
It's usually like, we like this song, let's do an episode on it, or this music, let's do an episode on it. I wonder what the composer's doing. Yeah. And that's usually what it comes down to.
Yeah, so we try to pick episodes, as far in advance as we can, so that we can give some of these composers time. We've had a few instances where we've reached out to people and we decided to go ahead with doing the episode. Like when we did the Batman episode, we did Journey to Silius.
Yeah.
Naoki Kodaka got back to us
after we'd recorded the show.
Yeah. So,
and I've never heard him ever do an interview, so I was like, oh my god, we missed our golden opportunity.
Yeah, and Journey to Silius would have been the episode to do too.
Yeah, but whatever. He's done a lot of other good music. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting to see. Sometimes these composers will get back to you relatively quickly. Sometimes it takes a few months, and sometimes it's hard to make schedules align. So there's definitely plans out there that we have and things that we're interested in, but we're just waiting for things to fall into place.
Yep. Let's go back over to this episode. Listen to a few more minutes of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I liked it a lot. That's why we had to throw that one in there. That brings us into Golden Axe 2. And so let's go ahead and move along to the second game in the series. That was released in 1991 by Sega, just 2 years later. And the composer for this game is actually a pretty heavy hitter, right? So this is Naofumi Hataya. And
has quite the list of games to their name.
Yeah, so we got, of course, Golden Axe 2, Golden Axe 3. We have Nights into Dreams for the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
Along with Burning Rangers, which we're definitely going to have
that's
a
another
full,
great one.
That's going to be a full episode sometime
Yeah.
on Burning Rangers, because that game is just too amazingly awesome. So, and then also did a lot of the Sonic games.
A lot of Sonic 2, Sonic CD, even more modern ones like Sonic Colors, Generations, Lost World, and even the Mario and Sonic Olympic games that are...
Was that for the Wii version? Was that the London?
I actually did both.
Okay, so he did all of
London
them.
and the most recent one.
All right, that's awesome. No, so really heavy hitter for this soundtrack, and the sound is very good in this game. So we're gonna go ahead and get into those first tracks, and we have let's see, on here we have
3 songs. The title theme, Dark Gould's Chamber, and Ravaged Village.
and these are all from the Genesis version. Versus the Mega Play, which was actually ported from the Genesis to the arcade.
Right, so it went backwards, or we're in reverse this time. It
Yeah.
was primarily made for the Genesis, and then it went to the arcade.
right. That was a good set of tracks. I think I got to say that I like Golden Axe 2 soundtrack far better than the first one. Now, the first one is good, but Golden Axe 2 is probably my favorite. Has my favorite sound.
It has a little bit more of a refined sound.
Yeah,
to it.
and that first track. Once again, the tracks that you heard just now were the title theme of Golden Axe 2 for the Sega Genesis, then the Dark Gould's Chamber, and then Ravaged Village. And that first track is so awesome. It starts off this very ominous kind of, again, sounding, kind of gearing you up for it, and then it breaks into this kind of like funk, which is
it's very
so
in your
awesome.
face, and then it goes into a whole different direction.
And
for the rest of the track.
it's kind of one of the things about this composer. Very, very creative, and likes to work outside of the bounds of the space. And moving into the Dark Gold's Chamber, do you have any thoughts on that?
That one is kind of your main boss theme again. He's the main villain, so it definitely has a very dramatic feel. Like maybe a little bit more time is spent on that one because it's the big one. That's the end, and it kind of definitely rewards you for getting that far in the game, which is not an easy feat.
Yeah,
so.
and all these tracks are really, even if you didn't play a lot of them, you could still appreciate this game. And the Ravage Village too. Like I love that. I love that track.
It has like an urgency to it.
Yeah, it's the first round of the game, right? I think it's the first level, and it's the most memorable one for me. I really like that track. So those were
we picked those
tracks
three
that
songs just to show the variety that this soundtrack has. I mean, there's many other great tracks in the soundtrack.
Now Fumi, there's so much. Like we said earlier, like there's so much variety, and this game has a lot more variety than the other ones.
I can't believe we did 3 tracks back to back without like telling the names and dividing it up. But I mean, at least in this episode, even if we don't feel like we were on point, the music was excellent.
Music was good.
It was I think Golden Axe was a great episode to be our episode 1.
Yeah. I think too it kind of made sense because we wanted to do arcade stuff originally, stuff that wasn't done,
right?
And nobody really was playing arcade stuff. I think back then it was like Legacy Music Hour, VG Empire.
There wasn't anywhere near as many video game music podcasts back when we first were talking about doing an episode.
Pixel Tunes Radio was around, but we didn't know of them until like I think Halloween episode or something like that. Like, they must have been like 30 episodes in. I think we were about close to that too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really spurred us into getting the show started was that Legacy Music Hour decided they were no longer going to be a podcast. We felt, that was a huge hit to the VGM community, and we felt we had something different. We weren't planning on trying to do the same thing that they were doing.
Obviously, we don't have like the comedy backgrounds or anything like that. We're not trying to be funny when we do the show. We're just trying to, we're two friends just having a good time listening to VGM. So, we don't have a comedy routine to go with the show. In fact, some of our jokes are pretty bad.
Definitely some of those puns and things like that. But we thought it would be fun to give it a go, and we've been really happy with the result and meeting all these people, whether it's composers or listeners and stuff like that. It's just been really fun to connect with people that have a similar interest.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? Last 3 years. Any favorite episode that you've...
Well, I mean, any of the episodes that have composers on it are great. And just for me, it's just been exciting digging into systems that I didn't know very well and games that I've never heard of. It was always exciting. And then a lot of the Amiga stuff has always kind of stuck really great with me. I like some of those tracks are just so insane.
The Astaroth episode was really fun.
That's one that I was actually thinking about too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was a really good episode. It was a game that I didn't play much. When we did the episode, it's not a game that I really plan on going back to, but the music was just very, very good.
Yeah. Locke's Quest episode was also really fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like early episodes that I remember having fun doing.
Yeah, that was only the second composer we'd ever had on. And we got to share that with our friend Swindu, who is a huge Locke's Quest fan. So that made that episode extra special, I think.
Barry Leach, we had him on as our first composer ever. And that was kind of a big deal for us because I asked him, actually, I remember, we're actually really close with him now, really good friends, have built up a good friendship and relationship over the years. But when I first messaged him, I was just like, hey, do you have any information about this? He's like, well, I could tell you about it on the show. And that's what sparked the whole, like, we should just have him on.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't really thinking about having composers on at that point because I don't think we thought anyone would ever be on the show. And at that point, it was just so fun. I mean, Barry is someone that I know for me, especially, all of his racing games and stuff like that played a huge impact in my life. I loved racing games. So, and I just like the way racing music is. So it was just like, what? Like, this is so insane.
Yeah. We have a lot of really good ideas lined up for the rest of this year and for, future stuff. We do have some composer stuff lined up that we've talked about already doing the show on that, we're just kind of waiting on timing.
Right.
This move stuff, this is the 1 week that I think it's just too hard for us to actually record. We had a show ready to go, just about. And we were just like, if we try to push ourselves, we're going to lose quality, and we don't want to do that.
Right. And it was just, it seemed like the perfect time we just made it through 3 years. And if we were going to take any type of semi-break, like this would be the time to do a smaller episode that's more just laid back and looking back at how far we've come.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website right now. Episodes, trying to look at other episodes that I really liked. Kirby was really fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Outfoxies. That was a fun one.
Yeah, that was a really
jazzy.
great arcade game. But if you look at some of those early episodes, like the Halloween episode, and stuff like that, like we probably went a little too hard, like way too many games, way too many tracks to cover. Some of them are games that I would love to
do a full
just kind of
thing
focus
on,
really, a lot more. But I'm really happy with the variety that we've been able to cultivate.
Yeah. Speaking of variety, I think like the next 3 shows we kind of have in the pipeline are I think we're going to be going back to a lot of FM synth, kind of our sweet spot. We do have some interviews lined up. We do have some really good stuff that I'm excited to play. And now, giving us a little bit of a breather, we're going to really have more time to focus on that stuff.
Yep.
And I'm excited for that. But so far, 3 years, been a good run. And hopefully, keep it going.
Yeah,
another 3 years.
Yeah,
maybe.
like we've had our ups and downs, and like I said before, there were a few spots where we talked about maybe not doing the show anymore, but it's going strong now, and we have no plans of stopping anytime soon. So
yeah, and I think that, there's always room to add more, like not necessarily more shows, but more ideas, more change stuff up. We were talking about doing like little kind of off week things, like just kind of like this, just sitting in front of the recorder, talking about maybe what we're playing and play a few tracks from music, or just something light like an MSX game or something.
Yeah, we can experiment some more now that we've been doing it for so long. We got to keep it fresh for us, but we also want to keep it fresh for the listeners. Try a few things, experiment, and see. Maybe these things don't turn out so great, but at least we got to try.
Yeah. Do you want to listen to one more track from Golden Axe, and then I think we'll wrap it up.
Okay, and once again, the tracks you just heard were In a Fortress and Hope for Tomorrow.
From the arcade Revenge of Death Adder. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of, conclude, kind of summarize everything we've talked about. We talked about Golden Axe for the arcade for Sega Genesis Mega Drive. Talked about Golden Axe 2, which was for the Mega Drive, Genesis, and then ported over to the Mega Play. And then we had some Golden Axe 3, and then the Revenge of Death Adder. If you were going to go back and play any of these games, which one would you recommend the most?
I would say that I definitely want to go back to Revenge of Death Adder and see where down the paths.
We should
I
play
didn't
that through
go.
together.
Yeah. That might be a good one to make a playthrough video of.
Yeah,
It'd be fun.
yeah.
It's
So,
a great multiplayer. So
like we were saying earlier, it holds up today, and it's a good game.
I think we're too hard on ourselves. This wasn't as bad as I thought.
I think
I think it was rocky in the beginning, but
Yeah.
we warmed up.
I think that's always been the issue with recording. It's always a little bit rougher in the beginning, but I think the gap between rough and smooth is a little bit smaller now.
Right.
But it was definitely fun for us to take a trip down memory lane and look back at how we were 3 years ago, starting out, not knowing anything, and also hearing how the quality of the show has improved over
Right.
the equipment upgrades and things like that.
Minus today, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had a lot of fun doing the show. I really do. I look forward to what we're going to do next. It's always kind of exciting. Research is sometimes it's a lot of work for us, but it's also part of the fun. It's like, oh man,
of
like
course.
what can I find out here? And there's little tiny threads, and it's always interesting, even though it is work. It's kind of a labor of love.
Yeah, and to me, it's just so great. When we started doing the show, I didn't know a whole lot about how a lot of the systems worked, and I had limited knowledge of some of the systems in general. And now, it's great to have games in those systems that are games that would be fun to play or recommend to other people to try out. And it's just great to increase the knowledge of a genre that we love.
Yeah, myself too. I've learned, I had a pretty good understanding of a lot of chips because I've been doing this for so long.
Right.
As a hobby.
You're much more into technology than I am, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I basically know that I can hit power and reset and put a disc in or a cartridge and it works.
But for myself too, I learn a little bit more about the details. Sometimes I don't always say it on the show, get into the really technical stuff, because there is that line we don't want to cross to becoming like just a techie only
Right.
show. We're trying to make it so that anybody listening can at least grasp the general ideas. There might be a little bit of technical info thrown in, but also want to keep a good balance between the two.
I think if I can follow along, then it's pretty good that other people should be able to follow along.
So when I'm breaking down the chips and stuff, I always make sure that if James can understand what I'm saying, then I'm probably safe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I sometimes surprise myself with recalling some of the things that we've talked about in past episodes.
Yeah, well, you're getting pretty good now, man. Especially with Genesis, NES, Game Boy, Game Gear, MSX, even stuff like that. You're getting pretty good. A lot of the FM chips, I think, you're getting down pretty well. All right. Well, I think that's good. Nice little trip down memory lane.
Yeah. It was brightened my day up a little bit, I think.
Yeah. We will be back in a few weeks with a fresh new episode.
Yep. Full regular style episode.
Yeah. We won't be looking at episode 2. What was episode 2?
Soccer.
Oh, that was soccer. That was actually a good one too.
Yeah. I think there might have been a little bit too many games in that episode too.
Yeah. Anyways, so we got a really great episode lined up in a few weeks, and also a few after that we think you guys will really like. Do apologize that if you were expecting a full episode today with a lot of new music, or old music, I guess. We do apologize if that's what you were looking for, because we obviously did not deliver.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do something that kind of was important for us. 3 years is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll do something really big for our 100 episode.
Oh yeah, that's coming up probably towards the end of this year. And but yeah, if you're new to the show and you're expecting something new, I mean, we have so many episodes. Definitely go to our website, pixelatedaudio.com, and go on the episodes page and scroll through the 80 plus episodes that we have to pick from. So
yeah, it's something will float your boat, and you'll find something you'll enjoy, I'm sure. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Again, 3 years is a big deal for us, and so we thank you guys for your support. We do have a Patreon, so if you haven't signed up and you want to pitch a few dollars our way, go to patreon.com/pixelatedaudio, or there's a link on our website as well.
Right.
We can also be found on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also we are the official podcast of VGMRips.net.
Yeah, great place to find tons of video game music that's high quality. It's all cataloged very well. and you can download, make your own playlists and stuff like that. So it's just a great place to further your own knowledge of video game music.
Yeah, so we do want to ask you guys a few things if you've made it this far into the show. Over the last 3 years, what are some of the episodes that really caught your ear? I guess. That's what you say.
Yeah.
You know, what episodes did you like? What episodes did you think we just totally fumbled on? And you know, we took baby steps as we progressed and as the show advanced and, you know, it moved forward. What are you guys' thoughts about Pixelated Audio and our show for the last 3 years? You know, let us know in the comments. You can send us an email, message us on Twitter, however you want to do it.
Yeah, and not just episodes, systems that maybe you didn't know much about and now you love, or game series that you've started to check out and play on your own through an emulator or whatnot. Like, we're very curious to see what ways the show has touched your life and changed your gaming.
Yep. Anything that maybe has given you a little extra inspiration, or if you've heard a track for the first time on the show, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys for listening and supporting the show for the last 3 years.